time to finish up the classic Donkey Kong Country games with the final game in the lineup. Picking up this game again after over 10 years does leave me in a state of nostalgia. The fast acrobatics, the amazing music, and the memorable characters. And let's not forget that it's a game that I've spent countless hours of joy playing. And that game, of course, was still DKC2. But we're not looking at that game anymore. Instead, we're looking at DKC3, Dixie Kong's Double Trouble. Okay, yeah, DKC2 was a big part of my childhood, but so was DKC3. DKC3 was interesting to me personally because it was one of the few games that everyone in my family played when we had it. Does it still hold up though? That's the big question, and we are going to find out right now. DKC3 is basically developmentally similar to the last two games, but there's one thing about this game that stands out a bit more. DKC3 was released when the Super Nintendo was nearing the end of its life cycle. That means the game suffered a hit in sales because the N64 was already out and it was the primary focus of the market. Still, the critics seemed to like DKC3 quite a bit. Me, on the other hand, let's just say my experience with the game is like being dipped in peanut butter and having bees sting me while a fat guy drop kicks me across the room. Don't try to picture the scenario, just fucking roll with it. So our story starts up with a trend from DKC2, in that both Donkey Kong and Diddy were kidnapped in a region that can best be described as Canada. You know game, if you keep kidnapping your protagonists, you might want to rethink your name. For a game titled Donkey Kong, there sure is a big lack of both DK and dongs to expand. Our primate heroes were kidnapped by a machine named Chaos, a hulking machine that looks way too implausible for its own good. Turns out Chaos itself is actually being powered by Donkey Kong and Diddy. So can you guess who's behind the controls of Chaos? Baron K. Ruins? Okay motherfucker, you need some professional help. This is no longer an identity crisis, you scaly bastard, this is fucking psychosis. I also forgot to mention that this idiot reptile is in fact married and decided to build a structurally insecure robot to conquer the world made from his wife's cookware.
What a dick!
And it gets even more confusing because K. Rool's dickishness affects birds of the banana variety. Because for some reason he trapped this giant mother banana bird to this wall that, from the looks of it, can be busted apart Kool-Aid Man style. Or hell, maybe the bird could, I don't know, fucking fly over the damn thing. So now we have Dixie and her toddler cousin Kitty to sort shit out from this sudden clusterfuck of a story. Let's move on to the next rant with the gameplay, starting with Kitty Kong. For the remainder of this review, I'll be referring to Kitty as Dipshit, because not only are we using one of the worst Kongs alive, he's so awful that my whole family called him Dipshit. You see, Rare stopped another trend from happening of making the new character be favored over the main character. Even then, you would need a monkey with an AK-47 to be able to top Dixie anyway. Or perhaps the evil monkey from Family Guy. Dixie still has her gliding abilities and fast rope climbing, while Dipshit is bulkier, can't be teen thrown for shit, and has a very difficult to pull off water skipping move. That last ability is extremely hard to pull off, and it's made worse because you need this technique to reach a bonus barrel. Another fuck you DKC3 has to offer comes from something that was supposed to be a positive thing. Characters have hitboxes that are more indicative of their actual sizes, meaning that Dipshit has more of a chance to be hit because he's much larger in size. Combined with the fact that he has no real useful abilities, there is literally no reason to switch from Dixie outside of maybe reaching for a bonus barrel. Animal buddies once again get a change because for some reason Rare thought it would be a good idea to get rid of Rambi and Ratley in favor of some elephant that's afraid of rats and whatever the fuck this thing is. Honestly, there was no real reason to get rid of any of the animal buddies anyway. If we kept them all from DKC1, then we would have all sorts of ways to complete levels and increase replayability. But no, chicken shit elephant it is. In addition to the animals, we have the Bear Brothers. These guys are part of a huge trading quest that involves collecting banana birds for the comically handicapped mother. Or in the case of the Lost World Bear, using bonus coins to blow up rocks to gain access to the Lost World levels. Banana birds can also be found in hidden caves where you play a short Simon Says game to free the bird where it takes refuge at Wrinkly's Save Cave. Saving all the birds frees the mother and unlocks a new ending, complete with cranky water skiing. The fucking show off. Another change in DKC3 was the means to get DK coins. This is probably the best change of the whole game, as DK coins are found on the shield of the coin enemy, where you need to fling a steel keg and hit him on his unprotected side. I've killed this guy so many times that I almost feel bad for this poor bastard. You may be thinking that I have a bit of a negative outlook on DKC3, and your assumption would be correct. Let's start out with the location. There's almost nothing memorable about it. In the first two games, you had two islands that are very distinct and full of personality. In DKC3, we are thrown into an overworld that lacks this sort of uniqueness, and therefore lacks personality. And it really doesn't help that most of the enemies lack personality as well. A great number of them don't look that threatening or even humorous, and frankly are more of an annoyance when traversing levels. But let's get into the levels themselves, which can be described in two categories: boring and gimmicky. The first half of the game actually doesn't start off that bad. The biggest issue I find is that most are too slow, so they end up being a bit boring. A few levels in the beginning as well as the second half of the game, however, is Grand Central Station for the gimmick train to go fuck yourself, Bill. And the last three worlds can truly go to hell. Each level, not a few of them, but each level has a gimmick associated with it. And here's the biggest problem with gimmicks. They don't truly test your platforming skill. Gimmicks are arbitrary and have no real need to exist for the sake of gameplay, and are instead inserted for the sake of existing, which hinders genuine quality. It's like getting a tattoo on your face. Sure, you could do it, but it's not going to help you, and everyone is probably going to fucking hate you for it. So instead of having simple run-of-the-mill platforming, we get owls out for blood, reverse controls, and my god. No. To top this cake all off, we have another issue with the levels. Lag, and a lot of it. This is definitely the laggiest of the DKC games, and as a result, slowdown happens frequently even when there's only a few enemies on screen. You'd think that because this is a DKC game, the music should still be kick-ass despite all the other shortcomings. Well, sadly, that's also not the case. This is the one topic that critics seem to be split over. Not the gimmicks, not the lag, not even the hospital visits by kids with concussions from banging their heads against the wall after dying 47 times on the last level. It's the music of all things. And okay, I won't blame them. Though David Wise was part of the soundtrack, he was teamed up with Evelyn Novakovic, with the latter of the two composing the majority of it. I'll give kudos to Evelyn for giving it a good shot, but she's trying to top David motherfucking Wise. So naturally this was an uphill battle from the start. To be fair though, there are still a couple of good tracks, but nothing I can find myself tapping my foot to. I want to stress that even though I didn't like this game, it was still a pretty big part of my childhood. There are some of you that might think I'm being a bit unfair, and you know, that's understandable. If some of you younger viewers are confused, let's compare the DKC series with the first three Super Smash Bros. Games. The first Smash Bros. Game brought the idea together, with Melee fine-tuning and enhancing many of the mechanics, then Brawl came in with an idea that was not fully realized, and worse, problems with execution. DKC 1 was the cornerstone that launched the series, DKC 2 perfected the formula, then DKC 3 came in with ideas that could have worked if more time was spent fixing the problems that came with those ideas. Case in point, did we really need the Bear Brothers? Or how about the Banana Birds? They didn't tie well with the overarching story, which was just another kidnapping. So do play the first two DKC games, but DKC 3 is one that you can definitely skip. If you like DKC 3, that's totally fine. I may ask if someone hit you over the head, but for the most part I won't judge. And that's gonna do it for the original Donkey Kong Country series for the Super Nintendo. Some of you may be wondering if I'm gonna take a look at the GBA remakes for the series, but the simple answer is no. I never played the games, nor do I have the means to record off a Game Boy. Plus, from what I understand, the remakes are much harder than the originals, so for the sake of my sanity, I'll pass. But what does that mean for the next review, you may ask? Well, guess you'll need to wait around and find out. This has been Ragnella wishing you to have fun and to take care.